Hey, Lettemieke, welcome.
Hey, Roelien, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I think you're calling in from Belgium. Is that correct?
And that is totally correct.
And
From a small village near to Mechelen.
to Mechelen, but we have the same nationality. We're
We
both
do.
we're
We
both
do.
Dutch. But we do this interview in English because most of the people in our program are not Dutch. In fact, 45% of our customers is from other countries, and our program is in English. How long have you been living in Belgium?
Oh, very long. Forever, it seems to me. I have lived in Belgium since 1992.
Oh, right. And what brought you to Belgium?
It was the first time, it was the Erasmus program of the now European Union.
Hmm.
So I spent a little bit of time at a university in Brussels, the VUB.
Yeah.
And then when I got back in Groningen, where I studied, I realized that I wanted to go back to Brussels. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And then I'm still there.
And what is so special about Brussels? Is that the international environment or
Yes, among other things. Brussels is a city that grows on you. So in the beginning, a lot of people who go there, they don't find it very attractive somehow. To me, it was immediately appealing with all those different communities. So of course, there are the Belgians or some Belgians in Brussels, and then you have the European institutions, but then you have all sorts of cultures, a lot of people from all around the world, really, and it's just a really great mingling of people
nice?
and cultures and
Yeah.
languages. So
Yeah.
great.
I hear you speaking about communities and about the international vibes. You joined the Mind 5 Optimal Performance Leader program in July. We launched the program in May, so you're one of the first people that joined us. I think you were also the first one in Belgium. What was it that attracted you to the Mind 5 Optimal Performance Leader program?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm still wondering uh, because it was very intuitive, and I'm a person who likes to be intuitive, but I'm also a thinker and an analyzer. So it's still interesting to see that I saw it pass by. In fact, it was on a day that I said, today is about focusing, and I needed to finish things. I still remember, and I needed something that I had found on Facebook, and then there is this ad that passed by, or this post on Mind Five, and I was like, no, 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 don't look at it. And something in it appealed to me, and I read it, and I was like, this is really interesting. And then I read more about it, and I think in hindsight, and the rest is history, because I enrolled
Hmm.
practically immediately.
Yeah.
In hindsight, it's really all aspects, a lot of aspects and dimensions in my life, in my professional and personal life, that were combined in Mind 5. So Mind 5
Yeah.
expresses a lot of things that I experience.
Yeah. Great. I would love to speak about that a little bit more, but I'm just very curious about one thing that you said. So I think you said was an intuitive decision, but you also said, "Don't look at it. Don't look at it." What does that mean?
Oh, it means I was going to focus. And
Yeah.
in when I write things, or when I'm busy working, I sometimes do need Facebook.
Right.
But of course, when you're on Facebook, you see other messages passing by, and I had decided I was in that one thing, and I was only going to look up what I needed to look up. I was not
Mhm.
going to look at Mind Five or anything, for that matter.
Yeah. It just popped up at the right moment.
It popped up, and so that's why I said, no, no, you're working on this. Don't let your. I even realized that I was being distracted,
Yeah.
and it's in the end, it's what Mind Five is about, among other things.
Yeah.
But hey,
But
yeah.
but that's actually quite interesting because I think is one of the reasons that we created Mind 5, because sometimes you really need to be focused and focus on your own things, and sometimes you need to help people to improve their focus. But at the same time, if you're focused all the time and focused on your goals, you might see or you might miss other opportunities. That's the irony, I guess. I think you saw the opportunity and you grabbed it with both hands. Um, you also said this was something that really appealed to me because it touches your values, it touches what you have done in the past and what you're doing. You also told me that you want to work with change makers, and you have a background in sustainability in the business to business sector. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Yes, I work with change makers and change making organizations. So people who within their organizations are trying to make change, and people who, as an individual, or because they're or are working in organizations that are change making organizations. And yeah, that sounds a little bit vague because change making, what is that really? But the area I have worked in is sustainability, as you said,
Yeah.
originally a lot in companies. So there, and I always was in roles that are sort of on the intersection between the company and society,
Hmm.
interest groups, maybe investors or policymakers, and the company, and what is the role of the company vis-a-vis society.
Yeah. Now,
And now, yeah, sorry.
yeah. Well, you said what is change, and that is a
Yeah.
question that you didn't answer it yet. I'm very curious to hear from you. What is change?
Well, change in many ways. So it's the change that you choose. I've worked in different areas. An area where I'm particularly adamant to see change is the food system
Hmm.
that we're in. But of course, we in our society and in our economy, we have many different systems. But just to give an example, one of the systems that interests me particularly is the food system. Well, we need to feed many billions of people and a growing number of people. And some people don't get enough, and many people, and even also a growing number of people, are getting too much
Yeah.
or not good enough.
Hmm.
And then there is the whole question about where does the food come from? How is it being grown? And who are the people who are involved in that?
Yeah.
And who are the people involved in a value chain that in the end produces our food? Just to give an example. So
Yeah.
how can you touch the right levers
Yeah.
and how can you touch the right buttons to change the system in a desirable
Yeah.
way? And who are the players in the end? And those are the change makers.
Yeah. But this
I
is
don't know whether that's too much
no,
in the
no.
air.
Well, this is quite interesting because I think many people want to change something big, whether this is the food system or corporate culture or something in their lives. Um, but it's scary and difficult at the same time as well. I mean, when you say I want to change the food system, I say yes, I want that too. But where do we start? Uh, and then you start, and then you get a lot of resistance from yourself, from the
Yeah.
people around you, from the company that you work in. Um, how does that work? Because where do you start if you want to make a change?
Well, it's a super good question. I don't know the answer necessarily. I think it's up to everyone to decide.
Hmm.
But I think is in the end, if I try to take a step back, if I look at what I did, and this was not consciously always, but if I look back, I've always looked at what is it that I can do within this bigger picture. Because as you say, yeah, it's very nice to want to change the food system. Many people are with me on that, and are with others. But you're only a tiny person,
Yeah.
and where do you start? And how do you know that adds to the bigger picture? It's something that will always be there. But I think if that's what you really want, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I can do? And
Hmm.
what is it that I want to do? What
Yeah.
is it that really inspires me? So for me, that has always, to give an example, for me, that's always in the sphere of bridge building and showing different perspectives to different people and bringing people together
Hmm.
who, in my view and other people's views, are going for the right type of change or a dimension of the right type of change.
Yeah.
And within that, I may not be the total visionary. I'm usually a person who comes in right after, and but I can bring people together of
Yeah.
different kinds. And
But
but that's just an example of the kind
yeah.
of role that one could play.
But I think that is incredibly important, because if you want to change something, I think the feeling of not being alone in making change, because it might feel sometimes lonely and you might get resistance from other people. I think that is incredibly important, and I think, as you say, I think change will not happen by one individual. But if many individuals start doing things in their own environment, then we can create incremental change with small steps.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. And this, yeah, couldn't agree more really. Voila.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I was wondering because you have quite some experience in change management. You say your ideal target group is working with change makers, um, and then you joined the Mind Five program. Um, how how did the Mind Five program help you in doing what you're doing now and yeah, improving what you already do so well?
Yeah, that's another really pertinent question. In the beginning, I didn't know, quite frankly, because there was this spontaneity or this intuition about it. So I couldn't really figure it out at first. Um, but it actually came at the right moment because I've been for the last year. So I used to work within corporations, and within corporations, indeed, you can be quite. It can feel quite lonely if you are about to start, for example, a sustainability program in a company. You are the one uh, with others, but who are going to try and make that change. But it can feel lonely.
Yeah.
Then in the last years, I've been working with organizations of all kinds, and there was one thing that I felt more and more that was missing, and that's the if you look at sustainability in the sort of people, planet, profit, prosperity, partnership kind of way, the people way is looked at as other people, but the personal people dimension was often missing.
Hmm.
And in a way, we are very often seen as people. I mean, you guys should basically just shut up because you're doing a job that you love,
Hmm.
right? Most change makers do what they do because they love it. They do something with a lot of passion and with a lot of interest. So what are they going on about? But these people often do this at the expense of their own health and well-being, which means that they cannot make the change they want to be making, or not as much
Yeah.
impact as they want to be making. And therefore, that is such an important dimension that is very often overlooked. And I've been there too. So that's even more of a motivation. I've
Yeah.
seen how one can really, yeah, you can really lose it in terms of energy, in terms of being all over the place,
Yeah.
burnout, whatever. And I see it all around. And I'm really worried about it.
Yeah. So if I can summarize this, is this so? Are you saying that even within organizations where they do have sustainability policy and do have roles and plans to work on sustainability, people who fulfill this role can still feel lonely
Yeah.
and experience resistance. Um, and what you learned in this program is how you can help these people deal better with this resistance, whether this is stress or other people showing negativity and continuing to focus on your goals, etc.
Yeah, Absolutely. So some people in organizations that are starting to look at sustainability, they can feel lonely.
Yeah,
And it's about bringing change. And of course, again, it's about your role in that change. And
yeah,
that's where Mind 5 comes in, or comes in among other things, perhaps, where you realize what your role can be. And
yeah,
you're actually aware of what your role can be. And also how you can be at your best in that role,
yeah,
realizing that there's certain things you're very good at, other things you're not good at. But also, you need energy. It's very simple. You need energy to get things done. You need to be able to step back. What happens to you when you're in stress? Are you going all over the place and maybe working like crazy but not really achieving goals? Which is important in every area, but especially in an area of sustainability that is still so early days in many
yeah,
companies. If you don't show that you're making progress, very often, or what sometimes happens, is that these programs fail.
yeah,
So Mind 5 comes in at as one of the elements of the total picture for those people,
yeah,
i.e., self-awareness.
yeah. Yeah, this is interesting, and I think what you are explaining in your sector also applies, for example, with organizations that want to improve mental well-being or physical well-being
Absolutely.
or well-being in general.
Yep.
Um, and sometimes they don't know where to start, or they start something and it takes 3 months and they say it's not working, or there might be another solution. Change also takes time. Uh, and but I also see it. I mean, this is a general principle that Mind Five touches on. I think upon if you want to change something, if you want to step out of your comfort zone and do things differently, you will always have resistance. You will have self doubt. You might have doubt from other people, and you need stamina and focus to stay on track. And sometimes you might need to change your plans or might need to change your tools, but not everything at the same time. And this is such a difficult I would yeah difficult challenge, I would say. Um, I just wonder because I see that sustainability is something that is becoming more and more important in organizations. Um, but I also sometimes see that yeah, how can I say this with respect? Um, Sometimes it's not always practice what you preach.
No.
Um, can you say, can you explain this a little bit more? I mean, or can you give maybe an advice to organizations who want to start improving their sustainability? Um, how can you make sure that it's really implemented?
Goh, those are a lot of questions.
Sorry.
But let's start at the beginning. Uh, Well, already when you say when an organization decides, who is that?
Yeah.
Who represents that organization? Is it well, talking in sort of almost conservative terms or old world terms? Is it the big boss,
Hmm.
and or is it certain pockets of within the organization, hierarchically lower in the organization, uh, who wants to go for sustainability, whatever that may be. So that's important to get a feel for. If it's the big boss and he or she really wants to do something, then it's important to look at what is it that we should be doing. And so it's an intellectual almost or an analytical piece of work where you look at what is really material. You now have these sustainable development goals, but these goals are basically just a way, and according to some, including myself, not even the best way um, to describe what one could do, but it's a framework and it's probably useful in thinking through it. But there are
Yeah.
other frameworks. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you look at where is our impact really material,
Hmm.
either in negative terms, like where do we have impact through our core business, and where can we make a positive change through our
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
And is our business model even sustainable? That many don't get there, but it's maybe not the first question to ask, but it's nevertheless very important.
Yeah.
And so that's the analytical part of it.
Yeah.
And
So
then
so
there
I
is a whole, sorry,
so
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So this means, I mean, what I hear you saying is it requires some critical thinking and even some reflection towards what you are doing and how you're organizing your processes, etc. Is that,
Yes.
yeah? Okay, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's no blueprint, I guess, for
No,
to.
no. But there is a menu that everyone could follow that
Mhm.
then gives different results
Yeah.
in different organizations because everyone and every organization is different.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so that's the first one. It's about critical thinking, doing reflection, knowing which steps will lead to which change and which results. Now you wanted to give an answer to my second question.
What was your second
Oh,
question?
I cannot even remember. I think if you had an advice,
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, I keep it simple. Keep it simple. Depending on whether you're a small or large organization, or whether you're already an organization that works in the area of mental health, for example. Think about where you want to go. These are very complex processes. Think about where you want to go, a dream, whatever it is, and then work backwards. And what is it? Which step can you take now towards that?
yeah,
Bearing in mind the role that you can play. So a company, a small company a small clothing company is unlikely to have a very large impact on its suppliers if it buys from a super large company.
yeah,
So it's hard to put pressure on supply chain. But maybe you can find a supplier that meets your criteria, quality, price, etc., who can show you that he or she is doing something within the value chain to address all the serious issues in the clothing value chain, for example,
yeah,
like child labor, like health and safety for workers in factories, etc.
yeah, yeah. Hey, and Lettemieke, how can you help? And can you help organizations with this?
I would like to think so. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm already doing that. Oh, now
yeah,
of course, Mind Five is an approach, is a methodology that
yeah,
I'm starting to integrate.
yeah,
And that's what I'm further developing. So how can I help? How could I already help was to think through this process that I just described a little bit.
hmm,
So depending on the organization, on certain programs, or really thinking through their sustainability strategy or plan for that matter, or how should we partner with others because we know that we need to work together with others, and how can we do that?
yeah,
So that's where I can help, and that's what I have been doing for a while. Now then, on the self awareness and what is needed to make an organization or people within the organization more resourceful and more energetic and more focused and more performant in the end.
yeah,
That's the Mind Five trajectory that that I can help on.
yeah,
So walking through the elements of the Mind 5 program that then allows the people that I work with to have a larger self-awareness, which helps them to do their jobs of change makers better.
exactly. Because when you want to understand the situation and make the right decisions, improve decision making, you first need to understand yourself better, the people around you, improve your strategic thinking. And I think the what is interesting is that you know the business, but you also know everything about self-awareness training. You're also a coach, so you can, not only do you know something about sustainability itself, you can also help people to improve their self-awareness. Um, we also just spoke about collaborating in this a little bit more in the business to business sector. Um, uh, if organizations want to train more people at the same time for a longer period of time, this is also where Mind 5 has an online training. It's called optimal performance leader training. And then you would be a person that could help the people face to face with workshops and do online coaching. Correct?
Yes, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you summarized that well.
Yeah. Is this only in Belgium, or is this also is the Netherlands for you still an option?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm very well, you know, we're so close. We're like it's like we're sitting next to each other, right?
Correct.
So there are things that can be done online. I'm a keen traveler as well, so I work in other countries
Yeah.
as well, and with other nationalities. So that's something I really enjoy.
Cool. Yeah, because I also noticed that you speak French fluently.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
We.
Wait. Yeah, my French is not that good anymore. I
I'm
learned
not
it.
going to sort of, throw in some French to impress, but
No,
yes,
no,
I do.
don't worry. Lettemieke, is there something you want to share in this interview? Because I think we have like 25 minutes now.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say to people who want to make change, or whether this is in their personal life or the organization that they work for, or maybe in their sports club? Is there something you want to yeah, give them as an advice?
Yeah, maybe, well, we've talked about it before. So I come across a lot of people who say, I want to have more meaning, I want to make more of a change, but I'm not in the right type of organization. Well, I think you always are, and if you're not, then maybe you should think about what's your next move. But I think very often within your where you are in your life and in your professional life, you can probably do something. And there, if that's really something that bothers you and you don't know where to start, it's a good moment to um, to start with a Mind 5 type of trajectory. Um, and then you probably wonder, like, what's so special about Mind 5? And uh, and I have wondered about that too. I know what did it for me. It was the combination with sports and mindfulness. And I think I'm now also working a lot with young social entrepreneurs, and their experiential learning is really important because that's how things stick to you.
Yeah,
So if you feel things, if you experience things, and how this works exactly scientifically, I'm not going to go into, but it sticks in your long-term memory.
yeah,
And in the Mind 5 program, you are going to do things experientially. And so you feel it when, for example, you are stressed, what it does to you and your thinking and your actions. And it makes you realize how that impacts you as a change maker and the performance that you make in change making. So if that's something you wonder, like, how can I reach a better level of change making, or how can I be change making? Then Mind 5 is a good thing to consider. Compared to other programs, there's a lot of things out there. So
yeah,
it's the one thing I think that stands out, this experiential learning through movement, sports, mindfulness.
yeah. Great. Thank you. Lettemieke, where can people find more about you? Can they add you to LinkedIn, or can they find your website, or how can they reach out to
Yes,
you?
LinkedIn is the best thing.
Okay.
So on LinkedIn, Lettemieke Mulder. I have never met another Lettemieke, so
Yeah.
if you just type in my first name, you find me, no
Okay.
problem, on
We,
LinkedIn.
okay. We will include a link to your profile in the message that comes with this video. And
Okay,
so
thank
if you
you.
get a lot of requests in the coming weeks, then it might be through this interview. I want to thank you a lot. I'm really looking forward to continuing this journey with you, make more change, and thank you very much for this interview. And it's a pleasure to have you on board, Lettemieke.
Well, thank you, Roelien. Very much the same here. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.